Hello, my name is Aaron, and I have a message for you. I would say that the way I see this universe is in line with the word pantheism. And a pantheist sees the whole universe, everything in it, as God. And so, as a pantheist, when I want to see God, I open my eyes. And when I want to hear God, I close my eyes. I want to tell you about your own divinity. I want to tell you that as a part of this universe, you are a part of God. And we stand upon this earth in the same way as a hare stands on a camel's back. We are a part of this earth. Everything we are physically comes from the earth. And we are like the trees, like all the animals, all the plants, every fungus, every single form of life that exists, from the very smallest, tiniest single cell organisms to the largest, most awe inspiring sized creatures that exist, probably not yet discovered, and those in hiding. We are all sharing this fifth dimensional experience. And in that fifth dimensional experience, we are all experiencing our own center of the universe. Our consciousness and our perception make us the center of this universe. Our relationship with gravity, our relationship with gravity and the planet, makes us all the center of this planet, the top center. Every single living organism. And that is the multiverse. The multiverse isn't some parallel dimension, some unseen realm that we might get to with high technology or through meditation or astral projection. Although in this concept, traversing the multiverse is possible through astral projection. But what I'm saying is you don't have to travel at the speed of light into the depths of outer space to find the nearest parallel universe. The nearest parallel universe is the nearest life form next to you. In my case, this little dog here, she's the nearest parallel universe to me. And she's experiencing being at the very tippy top of her universe. Although she's sleeping right now, so she's probably experiencing chasing rabbits and foxes through the woods. But even as she does that, she doesn't know, but she's experiencing that at the very tippy top of her planet, her Earth, her experience, top and center, all thanks to the way gravity affects us and our consciousness and our perception, the way we see around us. Why do I call it the fifth dimension? Well, because it is. The very base dimensions are space and time, and space is zeroth, a zero dimension, a dimension of zero angles, zero edges, zero boundaries. There are no things to measure in the zero dimension. And this is where we find the first layer of irony in our existence, because that nothing to measure goes on for an immeasurable amount of space. So, time is our first dimension. Some physicists suggest time is the fourth dimension, and I have reasons to state that would contradict that, based in logic, based in science, based in how we measure things, based in how lower dimensions affect the upper dimensions, not the other way around. So time is the first dimension, and we are all subject to its effects as a one-dimensional force. Time has no light, has no physical form, but it fills the entirety of the zero dimensions of space all at once, at this instantly. And what I mean by that is that what we experience now, this moment now, is the same moment all through the universe. So if we were to track back to the very first drop of time forming into space and we could see it, we would see time fill space in the same way as water fills a vessel. Time stretches out to the very boundaries that do not exist by our perception. Would be interesting to be proved wrong. And I honestly think there is a boundary to outer space now. Perhaps before there wasn't. But as this living being that we call God expands and continues to expand, part of me thinks we're all part of this enormous Mandelbrot set where there are very, very tiny things that might look and act like us, and there are very, very, very big things that might look similar and to and act like us, given their own drives. But what I'm trying to say is, in our fifth dimensional experience, time being our first dimension, we experience time in a line, as does the whole universe. And it's light that gives us the second dimension. And light is subject to the powers of space and time. Space and time affect the behavior of light. For example, light speed is about a distance covered in a particular amount of time. There is no such thing as speed without distance, space, and time. And so light, the second dimension, must have space, and time before light can exist. And light is everywhere in the universe. The night sky looks black because there's nothing for the light to bounce off. Photons are traveling from stars through the darkness of space, and then they're perceived or perceivable when they hit something three-dimensional, a planet, a rock, any object, gases, gas clouds, all kinds of physical phenomena that exist in space, outer space. Let's not forget we live in space too. If Mars is in space, then so is Earth. And so light bounces off an object, and that can be seen from other objects, uh, and especially living creatures with eyes that can physically see light. So, in our case, the sun, Sol, sends light to Earth. And we have the moon, we have water, we have the Earth's electromagnetic field, which is the fourth dimension, based on the maths of phi cubed, phi, the golden ratio, cubed. If we were to measure basically from North Pole to South Pole, and we multiply that by phi once, well, no, from North Pole to South Pole, we multiply by pi squared, and we get a ball, Earth. We multiply that once with phi, and we get the ecliptic Earth, where it spreads out across the equator. The phi squared element comes in between the north and south, and the poles, if you would, between east and west. That's the first measure of phi. The second measure of phi gives the Earth's ecliptic, and the third measure of phi gives the electromagnetic field. The fourth dimensional tesseract, the tesseracts that most scientists will show you, where there's a cube inside a cube that is connected at its corners. It's very similar to a tesseract that I designed, but my tesseract follows the rules of phi cubed. It follows the rules of the actual shape of the Earth, given that it's not, if the Earth was a cube, if the universe was squared and not circular, the Earth would not be a cube, it would be a cuboid, technically a slight rectangle, given the measurements of phi across its first dimension to the second and then the third. And in the fourth dimension, that would equate to the size of the electromagnetic field around the Earth. But we're talking in circular terms, so we apply pi squared and phi cubed to the first dimension between North and South Pole, and we achieve the Earth shape with the Earth's electromagnetic field, the torus field. And so the fifth dimension is the interaction of all those forces on Earth: time, space, the ability to move, the light from the sun, the reflected light from the moon, the gravitational pull of the moon, and gravity also includes the moon's electromagnetic field. These rotations lead to the formation of DNA. Compounds are formed on Earth in just the right manner, in just the right place, at just the right temperatures, that can then form into DNA. And we have to ask ourselves, at what point does consciousness exist? Does consciousness exist before DNA is formed? Before the first moss? The first tiny little green fungus growing on a rock? Did consciousness exist before that or after? Then we start to get into some very interesting ideas about consciousness and its origins. That's why I settled myself on pantheism. Because the formation of consciousness out of mold just doesn't make sense to me. Though in itself that would be miraculous and still points to something miraculous around us, forming us with these powers, these energies. And so therefore, as the dust is turned into DNA, and over thousands and millions of years, eventually humans exist, which on an earthly perspective, we could say we are the apex of our evolutionary chain, and that our DNA, within our DNA, there are codes containing the knowledge and information of every other living creature. That's amazing in itself. And so that's what we are. We are the consciousness of God, pushed through time, space, the sun, onto the earth, transformed into physical flesh through miracles beyond miracles and mathematics, to be here today so that we can all talk or learn about how that's what we are. Just a pile of atoms talking about being a pile of atoms, but with this divine spark of consciousness, the ability to communicate with all of it. You see, once you realize that you are a part of all of it, then you start to form your perception of oneness with the universe. You are one. We are all one. Everything is one. Amen.